On a freezing cold rainy night, blending with the roaring violent downpour, pouring like a waterfall on the slippery road. At that moment, a car merged into the heavy rain, speeding through the dark night in a rush. Reckless. Suddenly it seemed to hit some obstacle, forcing it to slam on the brakes. The screech of the brakes against the rough road echoed with a piercing sound. Inside the car, a couple tightly held their tiny child. Both their faces showed sheer terror, as they realized the car blocking their way was the ninja's vehicle. Clearly, they had given up fighting over the property, no longer threatening them. Waiting for them ahead was a hailstorm of bullets roaring non-stop like a smokehouse blast, with a relentless, intense speed that forced the man in the car to slam on the brakes. But bad luck struck. Someone had tampered with the car. The brakes were broken, so there was no way to stop, not even to open the car door. In this desperate moment, the man had no choice but to hurriedly throw his son out the window, his eyes trembling. Filled with worry and tears streaming down, he could only leave their fate to chance, helpless against the cruel destiny that sealed both him and the car. Soon the car flipped over, crashing into the puddle ahead, with a terrifying splash echoing with the earth-shattering screams of the storm. The relentless downpour kept pounding fiercely without pause. 13 years later, on a luxurious super yacht docking at the shimmering blue shore. But Bach had grown up now, a tall, imposing young man, with a commanding presence. His purpose for returning today was to repay the debt from 13 years ago, owed by his parents. His face full of determination, eyes cold and sharp, radiating an icy aura. Suddenly a faint noise came from afar, catching his attention. A man named Luong Vu and his lover were raging mad, cursing non-stop. The scar-faced old man before them, despite his endless apologies, was still cursed out for his grandson, daring to step on that woman's shoes. His contemptuous, disgusted attitude toward the poor was blatant, revealing a cold, heartless soul with zero empathy. He coldly ordered his servant to quickly throw the old man into the sea for the fish to eat. But Bach, having witnessed all this outrageous behavior, had reached his limit. He clenched his teeth and immediately spoke up. The young master, Luong Vu, scowled at him, arrogantly, declaring that this entire Long Thon was his turf. With a snobbish sneer that Bach couldn't stand, his pride crushed by the reckless, fearless attitude. He said the old man was a firefighter in Long Thon. Those scars on his face were marks of honor. He had fought countless fires protecting Long Thon and saving many lives. Yet now, some clueless, rich brat like him dared to insult the old man. It really made him both itchy and heartbroken. Secretly, I feel like he really deserves to die. Seeing this guy named Luong Vu, under your oppression, but still speaking extremely loudly, acting all smug, claiming to be part of the Luong family. Untouchable by anyone, but Bach's blood boiled, so he stepped closer. Amid the man's confusion, Bach didn't hesitate to throw him hard. He slammed him down onto the floor with full force, no hesitation at all. The crowd around saw Luong Vu getting knocked out, cold, sprawled on the ground like that, and immediately started buzzing with loud chatter. Ningbei, ignoring all the consequences his actions today might, showing no fear, quietly thinking that social morals in Long Thon were really going downhill. That's why he wanted to show him what real power looks like. The last train finally arrived, carrying Luong Vu with a swollen, bruised face like a pig's head. His whole body was beaten flat, unable to stand on his own anymore. But his mouth still seemed to work just fine. He bitterly turned back to look at Ningbei, and before leaving didn't forget to threaten that he'd make him pay. But Ningbei stayed silent, not wanting to waste words on this loudmouth. His face showed a flicker of unspoken meaning, with eyes deep and dark like the ocean. After getting off the train, that Luong Vu gathered the cops, and a crowd of black-clad bodyguards lined up ready. They just needed Ningbei to step down, then they'd handle him immediately. Looking fierce as hell, suddenly a squad of fully uniformed guards, with the North King Blade logo proudly displayed on their black jackets, stormed in groups. Their cold, stone-faced expressions formed a serious and solemn atmosphere. Luong Vu was a bit shocked by the sudden appearance of this overwhelming suppression squad. As if responding to his doubts, they lined up in a long row, then raised their swords powerfully to the sky, shouting a loud welcome for Ningbei's return to the Thin Bach headquarters. Ningbei finally cracked a smile, stepping down slowly and humbly. Or maybe they just needed to call him by his first name. The leader of the group respectfully bowed and said he dared not break protocol by calling him by name directly. Then he quietly asked if Ningbei had encountered any trouble since his return. But Ningbei gave a sharp glance toward the stunned Luong Vu crowd, saying that Luong Vu thought no one in Longthon City could touch him, which made him jump in surprise. This side is done for man. The heartless sword couldn't avoid the petty gossip. Seeing those cold, sharp blades, he was sweating buckets, trembling and stammering, trying to claim it was all a misunderstanding. The more he talked, the worse it got, but Ningbei let him pale and kneel on the floor, leaving everything to his men to handle as they saw fit, then coldly turned away amid his screams and shouts outside. At this moment, a beautiful young woman and an elderly lady who still looked elegant and classy were waiting. They had been waiting for Ningbei for over half an hour, but still hadn't seen him getting a bit anxious. Suddenly, seeing the woman storm off angrily, the old lady quietly warned her that if she left, she'd break her legs, putting her in a tight spot with no room to argue, her face twisted in pain like a torn mask. Just then, a subordinate rushed over to announce that Ningbei was about to arrive. Less than a second later, Ningbei appeared walking calmly, with an aura of authority, flanked by countless support troops. The elderly lady was so happy to see Ningbei that the young woman Thon Ha standing beside her had to wave her hands to stop her from getting too excited and risking her health. Suddenly, a step appeared. In front of Ningbei, it was Trung Nguyen with a face full of crisscrossed scars. A single step appeared right in front of him. It was that scar-faced guy from Trung Nguyen, with scars crisscrossing all over his face. Those two underlings of Mo Than have crossed the line of the world. The 5 commanders each assigned them a task with strict orders not to overstep. Anyone who violates this will be reported and severely punished. The old lady whispered softly, a bit worried. Unexpectedly behind the scenes, even Tianbei Mo Than in the battle blade of Zhang Yuan all showed up. But seeing the fierce look of Xiao Zhong Yuan here made her a little amused. He suddenly noticed, Yu then respectfully bowed his head to welcome the return of Commander Zhenbei Wang. It made you a little shy, so you called him to stand up quickly and asked about the matter. The two exchanged deep, trusting glances. Zhang Yuan seemed to have placed all his trust in Ning. He then gently patted your shoulder, and with a distant look from Qing Ha and his grandmother, both stared intently at the two of you. Respectfully, he knelt down by her feet, seeing the grandchild she had longed for, day and night, finally appear in flesh and blood before her eyes. After so many endless months, it moved her to tears. She couldn't hold back. Then he gently patted your shoulder again, feeling like Ningbei had grown thinner and a bit taller. The two grandmother and grandchild were overwhelmed with mixed emotions. She couldn't control herself, and suddenly hurriedly pulled you straight into the car to go home. Before leaving, Ningbei entrusted the story to the remaining staff, letting them know Mo Than would return to the organization, Hua would stay, and Zhang Yuan would go with you. After that was settled, she finally felt at ease to get in the car and head back. The luxury car carrying all 4 sped off in the morning sun. Your grandmother was excited and silently felt how fast time had flown. In the blink of an eye, it had been 13 years, and she had already become what she is now. You chuckled, saying if it weren't for her protection back then, you'd probably have gone down to the Yellow Springs by now. The atmosphere in the car was warm and joyful. Almost forgot, she hurriedly introduced the girl, sitting next to you, Qing Ha, saying she was your fiancé. But mimicking her cheerful greeting and bright smile, you weren't too thrilled. You told the two girls that if they didn't agree to this engagement, they could call it off. Qing Ha looked visibly happy hearing that, ignoring your grandmother's pale, angry face. Beside her, she pouted a bit, still feeling secretly upset. She thought it's already the 21st century. How could there still be arranged engagements? Because of this, she was mocked by classmates, until she was sick of it. Ningbei's grandmother remained firm as ever. Her wrinkled, stern face was resolute, saying this engagement was arranged by her grandfather and herself. They decided that, unless she died, no one could change it. No more discussion on this matter. She then turned to Zhang Yuan and Tianbei Mo Than, curious about how you and he could know each other so well. Hearing her question, both smiled brightly, but she said, he and you were very familiar back in Zhang Yuan that year. He often stayed by your side cleaning your battle blade for you, she said proudly and confidently, making Qing Ha sitting next to you a bit puzzled. She secretly realized he was a proper Zhang Yuan commander. The Tianzhong Feng Hao's Zhang Yuan battle blade was just a tool for you, wasn't it? This was really hard for her to believe, but to please her grandmother, Ningbei Hengdong said Qing Ha would be the one he protected for life from now on. He swore that if anyone dared to touch her, he'd wipe out 3 generations of them. Then he said, he ordered Trung Nguyen to quickly take his name and announce to the whole world that Thon Ha is the one he wants to protect. If she gets hurt even a little, that will be the moment the pain of the Northern King strikes down. Thon Ha and her grandmother were speechless, hearing him say that, unable to respond. What does he mean by announcing it to the whole world? That boast was a bit over the top. After a while, the car finally arrived back at their mansion. The officials inside quickly rushed out to greet him. As soon as they saw Nin Ba coming out, they immediately flipped their attitude like a pancake, their faces darkening to show displeasure at his presence there. The man with the parted hairstyle still looked aggressive, as he said everyone knew about the car accident back then. It wasn't an accident at all. The grandmother protecting Ninbok meant offending the three heads of the Nin family. Because of that, he insisted on a plan to cancel the engagement and kick him out behind his back. The servants joined in like a pack. They dared to cancel the engagement. And tonight someone would immediately come to Sanbang. My whole family is talking around the subject, but it's better to be straightforward. That man from my family is still stubborn as hell. Hearing Trung Nguyen's threats didn't scare them one bit. And they even openly mocked his challenges, wanting to see who he was, to have the guts to take on their man. Trung Nguyen challenged, loudly introduced himself as the commander of the Heavenly Order. Just as Trung Nguyen spoke behind him, Mo Than and Hung Dung also introduced themselves as commanders of the Northern Heavenly Order. Not stopping there, from afar came the commanders of the Western Heavenly Order, sweeping in with Bok Fong, and the most respected commanders of the Southern Heavenly Order continued to speak up. Their proud stance, standing united, formed a perfect picture. Among the 5 great heavenly commanders in the world, 4 were present here, making Ninbok very pleased. Seeing those 2 big figures respectfully bow back to Ninbok stunned the large group of family members. Such a powerful formation appearing all at once here left them unable to process it quickly, their minds blank and unsure what to do next. Yet they remained stubborn, quietly whispering to the son, "You guys are just all talk, making Grandma so angry she's boiling." She sighed deeply, feeling truly disappointed and disgusted with my son. "Truly, you don't cry until you see the coffin." Ninbok quietly ordered Trung Nguyen to act quickly, to show them who he really is. Hearing the order, he immediately spoke loudly into his radio, issuing an A1 alert. That info spread like wildfire, echoing through all the headquarters across the city. At that moment, a female staff member quietly reported that once the A1 alert is activated, 72 locations will enter lockdown. She wanted to confirm one more time, because this order wouldn't be sent to ordinary people. It's likely all security forces are on standby, but she thought 72 locations might be too much. So she recalled the order and changed it to just 1 location. At the main headquarters, a young guy saw on the screen Trung Nguyen saluting Ninbok and was very curious about who he was. Then he heard the woman say that was the father, the old man who was honored as the Northern King by the gods. But everyone was so shocked by Bok that they couldn't even close their mouths. His file was on the 9th floor of the building, a place not just anyone could get into. Right now, beside me waiting for a while, with nothing happening, that guy was feeling super smug. Sneering, he mocked quietly, thinking Ninbok was just putting on a show. But that smirk didn't last long, as something popped up on his phone screen that made him freeze, realizing how dumb his words had been. A few seconds ago, all their phones suddenly lost signal at once. The chaotic scene was really overwhelming. The boss tone was trembling as he watched the situation, realizing it had only been a few minutes, but Bok had already cut off all phone signals like this, making him scared, speechless, and unable to believe his eyes. Not stopping there, Ninbok's dragon guards thundered forward in groups, coldly waving their hands to order everyone out, scaring them so bad their faces drained of color. By the time they realized how dangerous Ninbok was, it was already too late. One by one they were quickly led away, while the old man behind could only comfort the grandmother, who sighed deeply at this so-called high-quality family. He looked at her and smiled softly, telling her he had to go back to Ninbok today, which made her feel like she suddenly remembered something, sinking into exhaustion. She quietly said that the old incident happened 13 years ago. But the old man, calm and cold, said, even if another 13 years passed, he could never forget that fateful rainy night. Then he quietly turned around, saying goodbye to Than Ha and the grandmother, rushing off, as if realizing if he didn't reveal the truth now, he'd never get another chance. The grandmother shouted loudly after him, revealing the truth that his mother was still alive, but he was already striding away. Suddenly, that shocking news hit him like a lightning bolt, leaving him stunned, his black pupils wide open, as if he'd just suffered a massive shock. She continued to tell him that his mother was currently a professor at the Great Sea Academy. Hearing this, he immediately hurried there like a lost soul. He still couldn't believe the sudden news. At the magnificent Longthon University, on a blazing sunny day, on the stage in a lecture hall sat a kind-faced woman in a wheelchair, her expression still full of dignity. But just a glance was enough for him to recognize that was his mother. Knowing she was still alive like this left him speechless, even though it was right before his eyes. A lazy-looking couple sat in front of him, shamelessly spouting disgusting insults about his mother. Their arrogant, wrong attitude made him so furious he felt like he was about to puke blood. He quickly lunged forward, grabbing the guy's head. The guy slammed his fist on the table repeatedly amid the girl's screams. Ninbok's mother, seeing her son in front of her, was overjoyed, quickly hugging him tightly, both overwhelmed with emotion, as if making up for the 13 years of loss they'd endured. After class ended, he helped his mother down to the courtyard. After class ended, he pushed his mom down to the courtyard, the school where he could finally meet his beloved father. Sweeping the yard below, the old man still recognized him despite the years apart. His aged, tiger-lined face and speckled gray hair trembled in the air as he saw Ningbei. They immediately embraced. He was a bit worried about Ningbei returning at this time. Deep-set eyes showed the weight of years of worry. Looking at him quietly, full of care and sympathy, moved Ningbei deeply. He instantly grew serious and vowed to use the North King blade to bloodily wash away the shame his parents had suffered for 30 years, with eyes blazing with fierce determination. After a heartfelt farewell, he left with his parents. Suddenly, a sharp scream from behind stopped him in his tracks. The girlfriend of that rude guy from the lecture hall, furious after witnessing Ningbei's school, her boyfriend, had called the cops. Who knows how many showed up, all with fierce looks on their faces. An older man standing beside her quickly demanded to know why Ningbei was in the classroom, beating someone up. Frowning and raising his voice, he asked what relation Lan An Ningbei's mother had to him. Seeing this, his father's face trembled as he revealed Ningbei was his son. The moment he said this, the man fell silent, his anger barely contained as he unleashed harsh insults. Bad luck for Ningbei, this man was also the principal of the school. Without a shred of mercy, he threatened to fire Ningbei's father, his grim face twisting with emotion. But the moment he mentioned the words "kneel down," his face instantly changed, turning sharply to glare at Ningbei's father, who was trembling in shock. His father whispered tremblingly for him to let it go, feeling that since the man was a ninja, he was not easy to confront. But Ningbei was never the type to be bullied or give in like his parents. Without holding back, he spat out Ninja's dog, making the man's face turn purple with rage, as he shouted, "That's enough. Everyone's patience has limits." But Ningbei swiftly unleashed a surge of energy, knocking the man unconscious to his knees, leaving everyone around utterly shocked, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Then Ningbei coldly turned and slowly pushed his mother's wheelchair away. His face was etched with deep burning hatred, silently vowing to reclaim every bit of justice for the shame his parents endured all these years. The man, overwhelmed by Ningbei's power, was so scared his hands soaked his pants, his legs stubbornly kneeling like stone, limp and unable to stand, seemingly crippled. Ningbei's family of 3 finally made it home, but seeing the dilapidated old neighborhood his parents had lived in all this time broke his heart. Then he immediately spoke harshly, calling out Zhang Yuan to quickly send people to help him move out of Ninja. To his parents' surprise, Mrs. Yang Yang, with tears and a soft voice, gently advised, "You have to let it go. It's been many years now." But things weren't going to be that easy. The old man was shaking with rage, his face full of deadly intent, feeling there was no way to just let it slide. 13 years ago, on a rainy night, his grandfather was brutally killed by those bastards. Nin Buck never forgot that hatred, let alone just letting it go. He gripped the wheelchair handles tight, saying this trip back to the capital was all about killing 3 people. The first was the ninja who helped Kwok Hoa Dong's envoy, Yen Kui Lai, who was also there. Hearing this, he asked permission, so the old man reminded him to take the Thon Buk Voon blade to handle it on his behalf. That aggressive stance made Nin Buck chuckle. It was better to let him handle it himself. But right then, the old man snatched the big long Thon Dao from his hands in a flash. Confident, the man turned slightly, ordering the entourage behind not to stick to him every second. Trung Nguyen heard Yen Kui Lai wondering which character made Nin Bok personally hang so high, and he lowered his voice to say the ninja was the target now. He understood the opponent wasn't that strong, but this was something they couldn't just let slide. Nin's face was full of endless vigilance as people bustled by, describing the lively, noisy atmosphere, because today was the old man, Nin's birthday celebration. Outside the grand hall of the mansion, dazzling, luxurious lights shone bright. One by one, important guests hurriedly brought gifts inside. There were golden Buddha statues, ginseng, century-old jade bracelets, porcelain vases, Lancome flowers, expensive stuff piled in non-stop. Guests arrived in groups, growing in number, each stepping into the door amid a rich, bustling vibe. Voices and the scent of money filled the air. Suddenly, the joyful atmosphere was cut off by funeral sounds echoing from outside the door. The eerie crowd's faces instantly turned pale, full of panic and alertness as the funeral procession slowly approached the gate, tossing coins and cloth along the path. Yen Kui Lai stopped right at the gate. The ninja, grinning, shouted that an old classmate had come to gift a steel cage, a century-old coffin. Just as he finished, a huge bell crashed down from above like a thunderbolt. Amid the panic and chaos of the crowd, Yen Kui Lai wasn't done yet. Calm as ever, he arrogantly turned his back, ordering the people around to cry their hearts out. The cries, laughs, and laments echoed through the night, sounding tragic and eerie. The servants were stunned and without a word scrambled inside to call someone out. Moments later, a cold-headed Linra stepped out, eyes wide open, asking what the ninja had done to offend them. Yen Kui Lai, carefree as ever, smiled, ear to ear, playing innocent and proud, boasting that such huge bells were impossible to find in Bakken. This was truly an amazing gift. The ninja's face turned purple. He glanced back and suddenly saw Nin. This was truly an amazing gift. That ninja dude turned purple-faced, glanced back, and suddenly spotted Nin. Thuong Lan and Tan Hui Lan were standing stiffly a bit, surprised, quietly guessing that Ning Bei was standing next to the two of them. It was their son. But the uncle, with a face cold as ice and sharp, proud eyes, introduced himself as the third-generation eldest son of Ning Bei. Today he came here to wish Ra a long life. The crowd of guests immediately buzzed with chatter, turning the atmosphere chaotic. Si Ning, standing in front, barely managed to hide his furious, wild expression in front of the guests. The guy forced a fake smile as if nothing had happened, then turned to his parents. But the uncle, looking both happy and just about to say he wanted to buy his mother a new wheelchair, was flat out refused by him. Though boiling with anger, he still tried to act moral and quietly invited the Ning family inside for a talk. But deep down, all he wanted was to keep things private and not expose his flaws. His sharp, gaunt face showed his scheming nature like a cunning trap closing. So, the uncle, along with his parents and their entourage, slowly moved inside, under the curious stares of the guests on both sides. His father was walking when that brat Ning Ra suddenly tripped him, almost making him fall flat on his back. Luckily, he was stopped just in time. Seeing him almost fall, the brat sneered with rude sarcasm, driving him mad with anger. But he had to hold back and keep up the act. Today, the three of them were the main event, so he couldn't miss a beat. Yan Ki Lai moved lightning fast, his face full of fierce energy. Along with Thon Bei's cold blade, they stabbed straight into Ningra's numb legs, leaving him in unbearable pain and speechless. Amid the shocked and scared eyes of the crowd, the old Ning family head shouted angrily, "But uncle, you've gone too far." Yet, sorry to say, he sneered slightly and said, worse was still waiting behind. The rain poured harder and harder. Completely opposite to the lively party atmosphere inside the mansion, Lin Ra, now presiding over the banquet table, was Ning Old Master, happily chatting with guests. His face showed joy and gratitude to everyone attending his birthday feast. One luxurious dish after another was served continuously. The low, cheerful chatter created a grand, top-tier party worthy of the elite class. Suddenly, the main door burst open, and Ning Bei, along with his parents, strode in. He said, wishing Ra family endless blessings and longevity, leaving the surrounding people stunned and confused. The cheerful chatter was quickly cut off, and the atmosphere immediately dropped with tense silence. All eyes focused on the three Ning Bei family members. The old man gave a cold smile and nodded approvingly. You really have guts and great ambition. Consider this blessing accepted. From afar, a young guy with fresh hair saw Ning Bei and arrogantly mocked him, ordering him to kneel and pay birthday respects properly. He snapped that he was Luong Long, a very famous figure in Longthan. His boastful, arrogant attitude made Yan Ki Lai's eyes itch, and he couldn't help but mock him with contempt, provoking Luong Long's men, who were trying to rile up Yan Ki Lai's hot temper. Like ice cream melting, they immediately called Tio Vien Son into action. To everyone's shock, they pointed directly at the bald beer belly guy. That Ennard quickly shredded and fed to the dogs, scaring him stiff, his face turning pale like banana leaves. Trung Duan hurried over, secretly thinking that plan was way too chaotic. With a stern face, he ordered his subordinates to seal off all assets under their control. He was like a punishment, making the guy more scared than before. Sweat poured down like a shower. Meanwhile, Lung Tiu, Long Yan, Ki Lai Ham Hung, and Ham Tien kept physically pressuring him non-stop, until his face was swollen and bruised, and only when Din Buk signaled to stop did they finally back off. Old man Nin now showed some caution, sensing the powerful backing behind Nin Buk. Then Hung Dung stood up and said that Ninja and Nin Buk's henchmen usually kept to their own turf, so why would they want to meddle in his family's affairs? But he secretly thought that made some sense. Next, he ordered everyone unrelated on his side to leave quickly. As for the ninja issue, let him handle it himself. After a while, only Nin Buk's family and the Nin clan members remained gathered in the room. He arrogantly took a deep drag, secretly feeling that now he had no one left to back him up. It turned out, he realized that this guy wanted to ride on Tio Vien Son's power to seize the opportunity. Swift as lightning, he called out the name of Nin's beginner-level martial artist. The guy unleashed his energy with rocket speed. arrogantly charging straight at Ninbok with a fierce, aggressive stance. But what he didn't expect was that Ninbok was now surrounded by a spreading aura of spiritual energy, making him completely immobile. He could only bow down at his feet, his body restrained by Ninbok's powerful force, causing him unbearable pain, unable to utter a word. Shaking, he admitted before the furious old Nin that he was a mighty battle god. Their group saw this martial artist defeated in less than a second and immediately freaked out, unable to believe their eyes. If that's the case, Ninbok definitely had to make them taste his power, saying that he swung his hand, unleashing a sweeping aura over a wider area, successfully forcing them all to kneel at his feet in utter humiliation. Yin Kuilai, seeing the scene, couldn't close his mouth and said that Ninbok reached the elder stage at 7 years old. And within less than a month, he had already become a soldier-level martial artist. How could someone like him even compare? Seeing the grim, terrified face of the old ninja, Yen Kuilai chuckled and added that Ninbok reached the king stage at 17. Earning the title of Northern King, he was just humble, calling himself a commoner. Otherwise, the old man would have to call him King Ninbok. Hearing this, the old man's face turned ghostly pale, sweat pouring like a waterfall, his expression deteriorating rapidly. Even his mother only now learned about his painful past, unable to hold back tears streaming down her cheeks. She never expected her son to have lived such a harsh life in the northern region all these years. So, she smiled brightly, assuring her that he was still doing fine. Then he fell silent, turning to the old man, and said that on a rainy night 13 years ago, his grandfather was forced by those guys. Your uncle too died in this hall, because to help you escape, he chose to stay at the main gate of this hall, and was immediately pierced through the heart by Thuong Hai's blade. You saw everything clearly that day. Those guys from the Kui family kneeling at your feet were hit right in their dark spot by your words, turning their faces pale, and bodies trembling with fear, totally intimidated. But the old man only got more enraged. Grandpa loved you deeply, and Uncle too treated you like his own son. This grudge won't be forgotten or forgiven. Now he's the one scared. The old man begged you for mercy, his face drained of all blood. But those words don't matter anymore. Still, he screamed wildly, his rage burning with deadly intent, then immediately drew his sword, recalling that rainy night. But Thuong Hai hunted down you and your mother, truly living up to being the ruthless second master Nin, with zero mercy. You drew your cold shining sword from its sheath, trembling as you said, "If it weren't for my grandmother braving the rain to save you that night, I'm afraid Ninbok would have really died in that bastard's hands. That's why none of them are innocent." But you slammed your sword down hard on the floor in a fiery rage. The floor cracked loudly where your sword hit. That cunning old man took the chance to rush forward like lightning, trying to grab your powerful blade. But his plan quickly failed because after the sword hit the ground, it seemed to root itself there, becoming as hard as iron. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't pull it out. It just lay there like it was welded to the floor. That move of his made you laugh in disbelief. A 360-pound King Dao isn't something he could easily pull out. Before he could recover, Ninbok coldly and swiftly swung his sword straight across the old man's body. Fresh blood sprayed everywhere, splattering the floor, making the old man's son scream in agony. He charged at you fiercely desperate to fight back. But the outcome was clear. He was cut through by Ninbok's sharp blade in a flash, blood gushing out his skin, turning black as he breathed his last goodbye. You sighed, looking at the two cold corpses on the floor, finally feeling like you'd avenged your uncle too. The people around screamed in terror, their strength drained, too scared to run. They just trembled there, screaming nonstop. As for that Lin Thuong girl, Nin wouldn't let her go. He wanted her to spend the rest of her miserable life feeling every bit of pain her parents caused you. After settling everything, you turned to your father, asking him to stay here. Everything about the ninja clan now belonged to him, along with the coveted position of family head. But after bidding farewell to your parents and heading to the graves of your second and fourth uncles to check on, you quietly strode out the main door into a heavy downpour. Just as you were about to get into your car, another vehicle pulled up right in front of the gate, its headlights blinding you, sparking your curiosity. An old man stepped out immediately, mocking you as the abandoned son of the Nin family for 13 years. Returning again, he had injured the eldest grandson of the Luong family, acting arrogantly, strutting with his chaotic crew, all gathering outside the main gate in the pouring rain that was Old Lu. Ninbok was about to draw his sword to clear the way immediately, but was stopped. These two places are Luong Thon, not just some border outpost. They don't have a massive army from another country invading the borderlands, so you can't just draw your sword willy-nilly. Suddenly a sleek car rolled up to the scene. Out stepped my grandma and Than Ha, both burning with anger. The old man and his son from the Luong family instantly became alert. Even though the car looked weak, its foundation was solid. If this old lady in the car didn't die, the Luong family would still have some standing. Still, they couldn't help but worry. She smirked coldly and stepped forward to probe the situation. Was he here tonight to celebrate Old Man Nin's birthday? But he quickly cut her off. He said he came today to settle the score with Nin. Because the ninja's people had already attacked Luong's grandson, he spoke fiercely, demanding Old Man Nin come personally to pay for the crime. Inside the car, Luong Tiolong's face was bruised and swollen from the beating. Just now seeing Yen Kui Lai, he quickly snitched. But the matter of Bao Nin Fu Kuok coming here seemed tough. Because the old man was already cold as ice. If they wanted him here, the only way was to call someone to clean up the body. Yen Kui Lai sneered at Luong. Hearing the news, he lightly waved and explained that a martial artist at this level isn't much different from a regular person. Then came the martial adepts. Beginner-level martial artists are already experts compared to normal folks. As he explained, he demonstrated the different bursts of power. The martial adept level includes soldier rank, general rank, and god of war rank. The symbol of the god of war is the Bach Thao aura. The overwhelming force Nin Bak was unleashing, blowing everything away, looked insanely powerful and cool, making Than Ha blush and her heart skip a beat. Ning Bak's power kept radiating terrifyingly, making the guy sweat nervously, drenched head to toe. Behind Nin Bak, each strike sent swirling energy currents circulating non-stop. A giant azure serpent spirit with a black tongue and glaring eyes was flexing its terrifying martial aura. No wonder he's the contemporary god of war of the northern borderlands, the Northern King. With just a single swing, Nin Bak completely turned the tide in his favor. That powerful energy slammed straight into the guy's stomach at a terrifying speed, making him scream in pain. He collapsed face down on the ground, looking utterly pathetic in the eyes of the Luong family. Nin Bak's fierce force drilled deep inside, destroying organs in an instant, forcing the guy to cough up black blood, exhausted and soaked in sweat. That's what you get for trying to pick a fight with a rock using eggs. The old Luong man was shocked when Nin Bak's father said his wife couldn't come out to greet him because she didn't know he was coming suddenly. The old man never expected the whole Nin family could actually return. Nin immediately frowned, realizing he had underestimated the Nin family a bit. His father remained calm as ever, with a composed face, lightly gesturing for the man to come inside. A hint of sarcastic mockery flashed across his face, making the other man's face darken, but he could do nothing but swallow his anger. The other party meant well, so he had to play along. Though annoyed, he gritted his teeth and stepped inside. As soon as he stepped into the grand hall, the old man's son hesitated slightly when he realized this place was a trap. Bringing countless people, he caught a glimpse of Lin Thuong Ko kneeling low on the ground. For some unknown time, his face turned pale. They soon realized he was one of the top 3 leaders of ninja, and also a strong supporter. Yet today, seeing him kneel here scared them all. Wanting to push deeper inside, the black blood splattered from the earlier brawl between Nin Bak and the ninja father and son made the old Luong family patriarch lose his cool. Sweat poured down like rain, and he regretted not listening to my advice earlier. That stubborn old man insisting on coming in here was definitely a bad move. Meanwhile, on the Dingbok side, he and Than Ha gently helped to Lao sit down. The father and son were silent, then sat down as well. Hearing her call Than Ha over to greet Nin Bak's mother, she put on a caring act to check on my brother. The old man did this twice for his father. But uncle didn't just come back, he's also the new head of ninja. Every word, every gentle phrase seemed like a subtle confirmation that shocked him into silence. His wrinkled face stiffened, unable to close his mouth. Your father kept his usual humble demeanor, chuckling, asking for help from these 2 elders to manage ninja. Then he turned to Nin Bak and Mac quietly introduced him as the 3rd-generation direct leader of ninja. He laughed and praised him briefly. Hearing To Lao mention his own son was just as good, made him blush with embarrassment, coughing repeatedly. That's all for now. He thought if he stayed any longer, they'd scare him to death. Then he awkwardly stood up and asked to leave first. As soon as he stepped outside, he couldn't hold back and growled that the abandoned son of ninja had returned, guessing Longthan's sky was about to change. His long, wrinkled face showed pure bitterness. He kept clenching his fists while talking, but even though it was late, I still wanted to visit the graves of my 2nd and 4th uncles. In the pouring rain that kept getting heavier, I probably still couldn't believe that the graves of my 2 beloved relatives had been dug up and scattered with tombstones thrown wet on the northern ground. My eyes were bloodshot, teeth clenched with hatred, unable to believe the chaotic scene unfolding before me. Under the furious lightning and thunder, it was as if nature spoke my feelings for me. But I shouted madly, ordering my people to immediately investigate thoroughly and act without delay. That night, Trung Nguyen and his troops stormed the main office of the cemetery fiercely to get to the bottom of things. At first, when Trung Nguyen questioned the man guarding the graves about who stole the remains from Ninh Thuong Nam and Ninh Thuong Thuong's tombs in the Northwest Cemetery, the guard immediately denied knowing anything. But seeing Trung Nguyen go berserk, his face flushed red as he swung his sword, scaring the man into trembling and dropping to his knees, confessing that a man had been there. The kid secretly stole it 7 years ago, looking super pitiful and miserable. When Trung Nguyen pressed him, he squinted his eyes and admitted that the couple had given him 100,000, with the condition not to tell anyone. Trung Nguyen seized the moment and quickly ordered him to recount the whole story in detail. Then he slapped down a $100,000 check right in front of him, leaving him stunned and dumbfounded. The rainy night sky kept pouring non-stop. Ningbei stood there, eyes fixed steadily on the grave. Seeing Trung Nguyen striding up from behind, he immediately grilled him about whether they had found anything. 7 years ago, a couple came here and took that urn away, holding a sketch of their faces that the other guy had described, but the elder coldly turned away, ordering to quickly find the artist and kill him once found. His words were filled with decisive strength. Before leaving, he commanded the grave guardian in charge of the Northern Flower Embassy to swiftly block all martial artists in the southern Hoa province. Using the ambassador's authority, he was to oversee, saying that he turned his back and strode off as the others shouted, "Understood," loudly heading back to Ninja Mansion. But the elder glanced into the room and saw his father holding his head, rubbing his temples over a pile of paperwork, feeling a pang of sympathy and worry for him. Apparently the ninja's finances were in big trouble, causing his father to agonize over how to fix it. The ninja business was tanking. Company shares were all pawned at the bank. Now they owed up to 8 billion. But the elder just barely opened his mouth, saying he would help his father sort things out. His mother's wheelchair, gently pushed by Thanha, rolled over, but she was firm about not letting him get involved. Hearing his mother worry like that warmed his heart a bit. Still, he could handle this for his parents. Despite her objections, Ningbei just dialed a number and called immediately. Ningbei's cocky attitude, ordering the person on the other end to call back him in 1 minute, made his mother chuckle. Who asks for help like that? But the elder smiled and said the person on the other side was just an ordinary guy, nothing special. Right after he put the phone down and headed to the kitchen to find someone to make some late-night food, everyone else was still stunned, clueless about what was going on. Thanha was feeling down. Ningbei was way too hot-headed. Who would want to help him? Suddenly, Ningbei's phone on the table rang with a harsh ringtone that made everyone jump. The whole family didn't expect the person on the other end to actually call back. And even more surprising, it was a video call. They stared at the screen and recognized the scruffy, awkwardly smiling man. It was Juzi, the richest man in the world, leaving them speechless in shock. His father was also blown away. Was this the ordinary guy Ningbei talked about? It was hard to accept. He gently took the phone and forced a smile, saying the elder had stepped out. If Mr. Tu's busy, he'll text you back later. But the other side awkwardly waved off the suggestion, saying it wasn't necessary. He wanted to wait for Ningbei, since he had plenty of time and didn't know what to do next. Luckily, Northern Bei came up from the kitchen carrying a tray of food. His father immediately handed the phone to him, looking very flustered. He picked up the phone on the other end, and when he saw him, he couldn't hide his excitement. With a respectful and solemn demeanor, he explained he hadn't answered earlier because he didn't have his phone on him. This respectful attitude made Nin Buk a bit satisfied. He smiled and said he called today to remind him it was time to repay the favor. Turns out 3 years ago, Nin Buk saved 4 members of his family. No wonder he was so respectful now. Hearing Kyo Tu promise to hand over all her assets to Nin Buk, he mentioned his family currently needed money to pay off debts. Hearing this, his face showed some awkwardness, his whole body trembling, as he admitted the amount was pretty big. He had to pay off a loan of 8 billion plus some urgent debts, making him uneasy about bringing it up with Kuyu Tu. Before he could finish, the guy laughed heartily and said he'd transfer 10 billion as a thank you for Nin Buk saving his family. If that wasn't enough, he promised to send another $10 billion. This massive sum shocked the whole Nin Buk family, who blurted out loud, "Isn't that insane, Dad?" He broke into a sweat and said he only needed 2 billion. That would be enough. Surprised, Kyoto quickly promised to treat it as if Ninja only borrowed from him and would definitely repay principal and interest. Hearing that, I immediately protested, refusing to accept both ends of the deal. After sweating it out for a while, he chuckled softly, secretly, thinking the guy was genuinely honest. Nin Buk didn't know what face to make hearing this. He knew the guy was a sly businessman just trying to use the chance to latch onto him with money. Whatever, as long as everyone's happy. But he figured everything was settled now, then turned and pushed his mom into the room to get ready for bed. Over at Thanha's place, An Onu turned to check on her. then softly told her to get some sleep early. Tomorrow morning he'd take her to school. The next morning Nin's car pulled up powerfully in front of Kid's school gate. "Bring Thon Ha." From inside came out her best friend. As soon as he approached, he saw Thon Ha coming out of the ninja car. He got a little excited and gently asked her, "Who is this Nin Bak?" Seeing Thon Ha blush and get tongue-tied, she immediately guessed this was Nin Bak, the one she was betrothed to since childhood, making Thon Ha super embarrassed. She overheard the girl asking where he went to college before, but An-Oh Nu casually said, though it was a regular university, he never really studied there, because he actually went to the Northern Liang Military Academy. Hearing that, the group screamed in disbelief. Being able to study at that school meant he was insanely talented. Amid their excited praise, a blonde-haired girl swaggered up and dropped some sarcastic comments about that school, making everyone fume. They just couldn't hold back anymore when suddenly the car door quietly swung open. Nin Bak's long legs stepped out from inside. With his arrogance and awe-inspiring spirit, he slammed the door shut. A seductive curve curled at the corner of his lips. Seeing him like that, Thon Ha quickly got scared. She realized if Ningbei acted violently here, things would go south, so she rushed over and gently urged him to head home quickly. The blonde dude saw Thon Ha and Ningbei clinging to each other like that and was totally powerless. Unable to hold back, the jealousy boiling inside, he pursued her relentlessly. But here comes the childhood fiancé, me. This made him lose his cool, his face twisted in rage as he gritted his teeth. The tense situation seemed ready to explode. He sneered and stepped toward Nin Bak and Thon Ha, who were standing there introducing himself as Exer Qin Huyen. With that classy face, Vin said that he had never heard of the name Bak Luong Military School that he had studied before. After waiting for a while, Nin Bak still did not respond. His calm, almost indifferent smile only made him more furious. So far, it seemed like he was just talking to himself in a ridiculously one-sided monologue. But now he calmly replied that the existence of the Northern Liang Military Academy was unnecessary for an idiot like him to know about its existence. Looks extremely calm, neither hot nor cold, he looks extremely temperamental. Following Nin Bak's words, the book-beaked boy wearing glasses, Thon Ha's friend smiled brightly and added that when he was at Bak Luong Military Academy, a 5-year school system, he enrolled at the age of 16. His haughty face curled into a mocking smile as he wanted to know what rank Nin Bak held at Bak Luong Military Academy. His arrogant face smiled and wanted to know what level he was at in the Northern Liang Military Academy. Hearing him say that he was just a commoner and had no rank made him extremely satisfied. That's right. Hearing those harsh words from him, Thon Ha's group got so mad that she angrily shouted at him to stop making things hard for Nin Bak. Her annoyed defensive stance was kinda cute, making Nin Bak smile warmly at her and tell her to hurry to class. He promised to come pick her up after school. Seeing her puzzled expression, he immediately put on a sinister look, saying he was busy this afternoon killing someone, which left everyone around speechless. Zhu Qinhuan burst out laughing sarcastically. He must be crazy with delusions, his non-stop taunts pushing Nin Bak close to his limit. After all, everyone's patience has its breaking point. Thon Ha sensed Nin Bak's unusual change and rushed over to stop him from fighting. She reminded him he already promised his mom. Nin Bak glanced at the annoying guy with a patient look and ordered him to stay away from Thon Ha, confident he wasn't someone he could fall for. As soon as he finished speaking, Nin Bak turned and got into the car. Before leaving, he told him to relay a message to the pretender. At 8 p.m. tonight, he'd be waiting respectfully for him to come and have a friendly talk. Hearing this order, Xu Qin Huyen was furious, telling his uncle to humble himself and seek him out. Dream on. The wind wouldn't stop blowing, but Nin Bak had already reached his limit. Furious and crazy, he swung his hand, unleashing a spiritual energy slash so fast it knocked the guy down, spinning him around. He lay on the ground in pain, looking pitiful. Thon Ha was a bit disappointed holding her head. She didn't expect him to actually throw down in the end. Thon Ha felt a bit disappointed and held her head. She never expected him to still throw hands in the end. After that, the car carrying Ningbei sped off through the thick dust back to Ning. Damn, when his mom saw Ningbei return, she slowly stepped outside to greet him, then quietly glanced at that guy Lin. She pitied Thon Ha, who'd been kneeling since last night, begging him to forgive that guy. But his mom coldly said that guy was the one who hunted down their whole family on that rainy night, so she absolutely couldn't let it slide so easily. With her usual icy tone, she asked for permission to go ahead and kill the second person, the Windfire God, triggering a rewind to Ningbei's family's painful past. Like a slow-motion flashback. Back then, he was just a kid standing there watching his mom kneel outside the door, crying and begging the Ning clan in utter despair. She screamed and slammed the door hard, but no one paid any attention to them. Seeing his mom like that, even though he was young, he already understood the situation. so he quietly moved closer to comfort her. Suddenly, his second and fourth uncle's cars pulled up fast, urging them to leave before the clan caught up. Begging now was pointless. They cried and knocked, but no one opened. His mom grabbed his hand as they prepared to get into the car with his second uncle. Just then, the iron gate suddenly burst open, and a sinister aura shot out like lightning, slashing his second uncle's eye, causing him to bleed out and die instantly right in front of his mom, and him, horrifying. His fourth uncle screamed helplessly from inside the car, but it was already too late. Through the slightly open gate from Ningbei's distant memories, he recognized the attacker as the wind-fire god of the family, and at this moment, he was on his way there to avenge his uncle's sudden death. The car quickly parked at the gate, and the guards were shocked and confused to see the Ning family's vehicle arrive, immediately opening the main gate and notifying the butler that Ning family members had arrived. The main gate was flung wide open instantly. Ningbei sat in the ninja car, slowly driving inside, memories flooding back to that rainy night. The red-painted gate of his grandfather's house was tightly shut. Every painful word he spoke stabbed like a knife straight into the hearts of parents. But sitting in the back seat, now waiting for them in the yard, was the chaotic Qin family crowd, growing impatient as no one got out of the car. But Ningbei rolled down the window coldly, saying he wanted the Qin family head to humble himself and open the car door for him. His words instantly pissed off everyone around, so the man swallowed his pride and stepped forward to open the car door. What hit their eyes was Ningbei's parents, sitting in the back seat, causing the man to shout in shock. Seeing his mom return like that, they immediately wiped away all ties, said that he no longer has anything to do with his family. Having said that, he immediately turned around and eagerly called the security guard to chase him away. He looked extremely disgusted, wishing he could chop his entire family into pieces, but he leisurely got out of the car. His face was as cold as money, his voice mocking them in a low voice. To rush someone away like that, is it because of guilt, or something like that? The man out there on patrol saw Ninbak with such a defiant look, and couldn't help but angrily curse loudly and confidently. The two Tan families are among the 7 richest clans, playing a crucial role in Longdan City. So, facing anyone, there's no need to feel uneasy. His father didn't want to waste words, and brought out more documents. Then he pulled out a file from the car and shoved it right in front of the guy's face. Next, he coldly and quietly pushed his wife inside, with Minbak under the bullet-like stares of all those Dangsun guys. As soon as he opened the file, he was shocked, hands trembling, like he couldn't keep calm anymore, because this was the contract between his corporation and the Nin family. The Tan family members were also stunned, unable to understand how their company's contract with the Nin family ended up in Ninbak's father's hands. Could there be some mistake? His father turned his sharp gaze, loudly telling them, "If you've seen it, then hurry inside and sign to cancel the contract." His tone was very confident, no extra words, enough to make them furious. Dang, Sun waved his hand and rushed forward, shouting, "The two Tan families have poured who knows how much money into these projects." His hands clenched, the already crumpled stack of papers, showing these 18 projects had drained all the Tan family's capital. Then he couldn't hold back and yelled loudly, "Want to know what Nin Din's got to dare force us to cancel the contract?" His head was pounding hard. Minbok's father, Hung Dung, said it was because he was now the chairman of the board of the Nin family. That probably made it legit. Dang Sun still couldn't believe what he just heard. Clearly, the chairman of the Nin Corporation should be Nin Thuong Hai, so how could he hand over that position to Ninbak's father? His wrinkled face showed pale blue veins. Dang Sun felt he couldn't let this continue. He pulled out his phone to call Nin Thuong Hai to get the story straight. But he kept calling and calling, yet the other side never answered. But Uncle Chiam pitied his struggling look a bit. Dang Sun didn't give up and kept calling inside Din Fu Kwok. But all he got was the ringing tone, making him anxious as hell. He had to call Nin Thuong Ko to check, and finally got through. But every word from the other end stunned him so badly he couldn't stand. His face went pale, drained of blood, looking like his soul had been sucked out. Only now did he realize Ninbak An was the one who left Ninja 13 years ago. But Thuong Ko on the line warned him not to mess with him if he didn't want to die, leaving him totally freaked out, his whole body unable to stand. Dang Sun's hands and feet trembled uncontrollably. What the hell happened to Lin Thuong Ko, one of the top 10 martial artists in Longthan, that he could be so scared? His whole body kept shaking. Minbak's father coldly urged him to sign quickly. Trapped holding the stack of files, he hesitated repeatedly, not knowing what to do. Here, his sister-in-law saw this, and softened, begging his mother to persuade her husband not to push them to the brink of death. On her fake face, she forced a stiff smile. The petty parents were lucky they weren't naive and gentle like before. Her face showed the hatred and anger of those 2 years. They got married, His father used all the ninja clan's manpower resources to boost their company from a small third-tier firm to one of the 7 richest clans. So now, even if they regret it, it's already too late. Back then, he could lift them up, and now he could just as easily bring them down. This strong and decisive statement left them frozen, full of fear. Suddenly at that moment, a soft voice echoed from behind. If you want them to sign quickly, leave it to me, making everyone turn around. Calmly walking in through the main door was Thun Fong Ha. Nin Bok's arch-enemy, the one who caused the death of his Uncle Tu and Uncle Hai, suddenly appearing. His relaxed, dignified demeanor made him hate him to death. A flicker of endless hatred flashed in his eyes. The Tun group was shocked and confused upon hearing Fong Ha speak like that. Fong Ha, still calm, dignified and refined, sneered mockingly. Lin had already invested over 10 billion dong in the new area, facing tons of difficulties and pressure to recover the capital. So now, it was basically a shaky support, which made him extremely satisfied. But the old man kept watching him, still babbling on. Fong Ha didn't stop there, laughing dryly as he compared the 2 areas to a golden snitch. Luckily, they had retreated in time, but his words still carried firm determination. However, the projects still needed to be handed over to them. So the old man coldly anticipated their intentions. That's why he had already arranged everything that belonged to them. Then threw a thick stack of papers right in front of the pale Tun group. Hey, you guys gather around and stare at the stack of papers that Nin Bok's father just handed over. Their faces changed as they read. And finally, unable to hold it in, they angrily slammed the papers on the ground, clearly pissed off. Feeling bullied by the ninja clan, they clenched their teeth in frustration. The profits from these 3 small projects wouldn't exceed 2 billion dong, but they had already invested 6 billion dong into Ning Bok. Suddenly Fong Ha, without saying a word, waved his hand, urging them to sign quickly. Everyone was stunned and confused. Was he seriously losing it or what? Turns out everything has its reason. Fong Ha smirked slyly, revealing that the Luong family was ready to invest in the shares. Once these 3 projects were completed, they'd pay off the bank debt, and only then could the clan bounce back. It sounded reasonable and pretty credible. They decided to take a big risk and sign. In no time, the contract was signed quickly under everyone's watchful eyes. Suddenly, Nin Bok's phone rang softly. The group overheard the name To2 that he just mentioned, and were shocked and dumbfounded. To2 was the richest person in the world. Their eyes widened in disbelief. How could the Nin Bok family possibly know someone like that? Over at Q2's side, he said, the sudden call was to inform the Nin Bok family that all the board members of PG Corporation had just agreed to become in-laws, deciding to invest in Ninja, ready to put in $10 billion for 10% of the Nin clan's shares. This announcement shocked everyone to their core at this insane deal. So he couldn't hold back his tears, his whole body trembling like he couldn't believe his own hands anymore. Good things falling from the sky like that are really hard to believe. But he stepped forward and softly said, 10% of the shares is way too much. Q2's crew on the other side immediately stood up sharply at the order, respectfully saluting him. He said even just 1% would be approved, which made him so happy he could barely contain himself. The deal was sealed. The Chin family gang was stunned when they heard Q2 call Nin Bok the Northern King, and they panicked just as much. But he sneered, sharing in Q2's joy on the other side. Sitting in the same boat with him, seeing his parents so happy was enough to make him feel blessed. The Chin family was so pissed, they were about to puke blood, and they didn't stop there. They immediately challenged the Nin Bok family. Money ain't everything. There's still something called a martial artist. Every word hit Nin Bok right where it hurt. Here I am. Call my parents out here quick. Then he stared fiercely at the intermediate martial artist Thun Fong Ha and unleashed his energy wildly. Waves of life force surged out, thick with smoke and fire. Nin Bok's angry aura cut through the air like a blade, dissolving everything around him. Smoke billowed everywhere, turning the Chin family black with soot. One by one they dropped to their knees before him, utterly weak. At this moment, they finally understood the meaning behind Nin Thuong's warnings. If you don't want to die, don't mess with him. They only realized it after seeing the coffin. But now it was way too late. Just as he briefly turned his head and let his guard down, Fong Ha took the chance from behind, grabbing a sharp sword and darting toward the altar at lightning speed. The moment he swung the sword to strike him from behind, he suddenly couldn't move his arm down at all. His body froze like it was frozen, solid, trembling midair, trapped by Nin Bok's overwhelming force. Nin Bok turned around, locking eyes with the crazed, evil look on the guy's face, suddenly recalling how this guy had killed his second uncle years ago just to steal credit from Ninja. He felt the sheer malice radiating from the man before him. Going as far as to stab someone in the back like that was unforgivable. Ninbok unleashed a powerful strike, straight at him, struggling with the sword in his hand. Less than a second later, the force shot deep into his chest, piercing a bloody hole. He was blasted backward, collapsing to the ground, unable to close his eyes, terror and shock clear in his gaze. The debt was settled, but he turned and walked straight out, leaving the Chin family wailing in sorrow behind him. They secretly admitted he really was the war god of the northern capital, but now that they recognized it, it was already too late. Meanwhile, outside the Nin family home, To Thon Hui's car was parked right in front of them. The whole Ninbok family saw the guest arrive and slowly stepped outside to greet him. He came first to check on his mother's health, then to discuss something important with Ninbok. After saying that, he glanced at him sharply, but he invited him into the room to sit and softly asked, "Is there something tough going on that you had to come all the way here to see me?" He spoke gruffly, but firmly. "I'm not as good as I used to be now, but I'm still not at the point where I need to ask for outside help. Besides, your ninja isn't exactly thriving either. They're not much, but just watch To Thon Hu's tough badass vibe. Gotta admit, he's kinda interesting. Totally different from those other guys." To Thon Hu didn't waste time and cut straight to the chase. He slammed down a card worth $300 million on the table, demanding the cancellation of the engagement with Thon Ha. This fierce energy made Ninbok feel insulted, his face turning purple as he snapped, slamming the teacup down, ordering his lackeys to kick the guests out as soon as possible. Just as Minbok was about to leave casually, To Thon Hu shouted after him, claiming he knew nothing about Thon Ha and was dead, sure he'd make her happy, which only pissed Ninbok off more. He realized this wasn't just some deal where the other guy could say whatever he wanted. To Thon Hui, hearing the question, didn't dodge it and firmly confirmed this was strictly a business deal, nothing more, because the marriage alliance between the two families had been set in stone for a long time. The tension in the room spiked when a beautiful, seductive stranger quietly appeared at the door, bowing respectfully and greeting Lord Bok Vuong, that's Ninbok, surprising To Thon Hui with how respected Ninbok was. She smiled brightly and introduced herself as Muk A, the Asian investment chairwoman of PG Corporation. She said she came because she received an email from Chairman Kyo, then handed over a bank card loaded with $10 billion to invest in the Nin Corporation. Hearing that insane amount and Kyo2's name, To Thon Hui nearly collapsed, trembling and shocked with his mouth wide open. But after Ninbok's demands were met, he had her escorted to his father's office to sign the contract, then turned to To Thon Hui, who was standing there like a stone statue, arrogantly saying he wasn't interested in money. But if he wanted, people would gladly hand him billions of US dollars on a silver platter. As for the marriage, that wasn't something young people like them could decide on their own. But To Thon Hui coldly turned his back and said if anyone wanted to settle, that they should call grandma. He came to talk to Ninbok, intimidated by Ninbok's proud aura, turning pale but standing stiff like a statue. After a while, once the guests left, Ninbok returned to his room, his mind tangled with endless worries. He realized Toyota didn't hesitate to pay a huge price to force him to break off the engagement, which definitely wasn't for Thon Ha's benefit. So what was their plan? Don't overthink it. He ordered his subordinate to come and get the scoop on the codes for the second and fourth uncles, asking if they'd finished investigating everything. The guy looked terrified, pale as a ghost, and said Trung Nguyen called him to report that they couldn't find the remains of those two. Hearing this, Minbok flew into a rage, crushing the teacup in his hand. The subordinate, scared stiff, quickly knelt down and added, although no clues were found about the remains, we got a secret message from a group in Lac-Thon saying they discovered traces of the Ning Tu family. That hit Minbok like a lightning bolt. He jumped up, slammed the table loudly, refusing to believe his fourth uncle was still alive. His fierce attitude scared the lackey stiff. Minbok immediately shouted, "Quick, notify the team." Lac-Thon put all his effort into tracking down any sign of his uncle. After delegating everything, he was so happy he couldn't stop grinning when he heard that his beloved Uncle Tu was still alive. Even with just a 1% chance, he was ready to wait until the next day. The ninja car carrying Ninbok sped down the road. He seemed a bit impatient, constantly urging the driver to speed up. But bad luck for him, the traffic jam meant he was stuck in place, right in the middle of a bottleneck. No matter how much the drivers honked, it was all pointless. After waiting forever and feeling frustrated, Ninbok ordered someone to bring a helicopter here immediately. No sooner had he spoken than a huge helicopter roared in. Everyone was surprised, but he quickly climbed the rope ladder and smoothly slid forward, leaving the stunned onlookers behind. The helicopter cut through the sky like a gust of wind over the thick green treetops under the deep blue sky. Finally, it landed on a nearby open field. He stepped out slowly from inside. The crowded scene waiting there surprised him. He didn't understand what was going on. Following orders from above, Someone quickly briefed Ninbok on the situation. They respectfully saluted, explaining they came based on a report to check on someone missing in this area. The person was attacked by a beast. That beast was extremely ferocious, moving at over 10 meters per second, probably a rogue soldier. They couldn't fight it off. A gloomy, tired expression appeared on Trang's pale face. Hearing this, the captain ordered them to evacuate the wounded soldiers quickly. Ninbok and he would handle things here. But it seemed too late already, because it looked like they were being watched by some mysterious force. A shadow flashed past Ninbok's trusting eyes. It disappeared so fast, leaving them shocked at its rocket-like speed. Suddenly, a woman's voice replaced the silence, cursing them as useless all bark and no bite. She shouted that the Luong Vu organization was usually fierce. So why were they so useless now? This made Ninbok's team mad as hell. Talk about getting hit while sitting down. A junior stepped forward quietly to say she was Liu Lin-ni, granddaughter of Old Liu, a famous doctor in Trung Nu Wen. She had encountered that beast while gathering herbs on the mountain. Tu Lam got hurt trying to save her. She still acted all uncomfortable and annoyed, yelling sarcastically non-stop, leaving Ninbok speechless at her attitude. He frowned and glanced at her, saying there was 100-year-old medicine in her herb basket that could heal wounds. Hearing this, she instantly freaked out, clutching her bag tightly and loudly, refusing anyone to touch it, which pissed Ninbok off. His face darkened. He wasn't going to tolerate her anymore, and shouted for her to get lost immediately. Everyone has pride, but he wouldn't let her trample on his dignity any longer. Then, he coldly turned away, not wanting to argue with this difficult woman. She seemed a bit scared and softened, her tone trembling slightly. But it was too late. The Luong Vu organization's mission this time was to kill that wild beast, not to protect her. He cut her off coldly, not wanting to say more. She was invited to leave, making Liu Lin-he storm off in a huff. Before leaving, she even turned back to threaten that if she met her father, she would make sure he taught them a lesson. Her words made them burst out laughing, secretly thinking that Liu's old man was such a disgrace to have a descendant like her, so they left bitter but silent. Though they said that there was still some worry. What if something bad happened to her? That would be serious. But the old man remained steady as ever, his face cold and expressionless, subtly signaling something toward Liu Lin-he. At that moment, she had only taken a few steps, when suddenly a pitch-black beast with sharp claws appeared right in front of her, flicking its tongue aggressively, charging at her, scaring her so badly, she went pale, collapsed on the ground, trembling and crying for help. The beast, covered in jet-black fur, radiated a fierce aura all over its body. It bared razor-sharp teeth like swords, and growled ferociously, then slowly advanced toward Liu Lin-he with an extremely aggressive stance, making her shake with fear. Luckily, Ninbok's soldiers had already spotted Liu Lin-he's life-or-death situation. Without hesitation, they unleashed a volley of arrows at the ferocious beast, each arrow flying fast and true, piercing deep into the beast's brain, causing it to scream in agony with no hope. Fresh blood sprayed everywhere, soaking the ground. Within a second, it collapsed dead, leaving everyone stunned. Liu Lin-he trembled in fear, slowly standing beside Ninbok. At that moment, a leaf blade move from him had seriously wounded the beast just now, leaving everyone amazed and speechless, silently thinking he was a true battle god. But the old man turned his back to the helicopter, signaling that today's 2 missions were complete. Except for one who was ordered to accompany him into the lost city, the others quickly returned to Luong Vu headquarters. The others quietly heard Ninbok being called the commanding envoy, which shook their minds once again. Both faces went pale and stunned, speechless. They quietly noticed the golden Quilin jacket he wore was meant for only one person. And that was the supreme commander, who could issue orders to 5 commanding envoys with great authority. The combat helicopter spun rapidly, then roared up into the smoky sky, carrying the old man and his team swiftly back to base. Sitting in front of the control screen, he was overjoyed when he heard the news that Lin Thung, his 4th uncle, was still alive. Seeing the clue, a video of a middle-aged man riding a bike, he couldn't help but jump up suddenly. It was definitely his 4th uncle. At a bustling market filled with people and fragrant stalls, Lin Tung was pushing his bike loaded with candied hawthorn, looking hard-working and worn out but always smiling kindly. Suddenly, he heard a woman opposite ask, "Why didn't you take the job your son recommended last time?" His wife heard this and waved her hand, awkwardly smiling. "Because both of you are getting old and not healthy enough for heavy work." Knowing the couple's tough situation early on, the woman gently handed over a large bag of money, kindly saying she wanted to help with living and school expenses for their child, making the couple embarrassed and hesitant to accept. She felt guilty about borrowing money from the couple before and still not being able to pay it back. Doing this now would be super awkward. Despite the couple's firm refusal, that woman stubbornly shoved the money into the hands of these two kind and generous people, which deeply moved the couple. A flash of happiness lit up her tired, wrinkled face all of a sudden. From afar, the gang of thugs called close, who were demanding protection money, swaggered over with their obnoxious, arrogant attitude that was seriously annoying. They made a round through the market, brazenly snatching money from merchants. When they heard the old man nervously say he only made a few coins a day, they aggressively kicked his bicycle down with a ruthless, violent attitude, showing zero mercy. The candied haw on his bike flew off, scattering everywhere on the ground. One of them grabbed a metal rod and shamelessly hit the old man's head hard, constantly threatening him, forcing him to cough up 500 dong for water, not a single cent less. Faced with this crude behavior, the old man clenched his fists and endured silently. Kwa, seeing her father being bullied, couldn't hold back anymore. Small but fierce, she charged at the thug, shouting loudly. Her wild outburst pissed him off big time, so he mercilessly shoved the little girl aside. Tiny Kwa was no match for him at all, and she fell hard to the ground, hurting all over, trembling and sobbing. Seeing her daughter so badly mistreated, Thuong's anger boiled over. Her hands clenched into trembling fists, her whole body burning with uncontrollable rage. Suddenly, the gang noticed the money bag fall from the old man's pocket and started yelling loudly. The leader, furious that the old man dared to hide money, pointed directly at him and ordered his henchmen to beat him up fast. After sending his wife and daughter inside, despite the gang's provocation and his own overwhelming fury, Thuong charged at them full of fierce energy. She brutally twisted the leader's arm behind his back with all her strength before he could react. The sound of tearing echoed as his arm snapped in two, causing him to turn pale with pain. But Thuong's face remained grim, her burning hatred rising as she remembered how she was once useless, unable to protect her sister-in-law and Lin Bok, which filled him with deep regret. Now these thugs dared to mess with his wife and daughter, the people he loved most, hitting right at his deepest pain. Once again, the fiery rage and relentless spirit of Nin Thuong surged, making the gang even more bloodthirsty, and they charged at him with sticks and clubs. But life isn't a dream. They were met head-on by Thuong's powerful punches and kicks, bruising their faces badly, fresh blood gushing out like a fountain as they tumbled to the ground. Seeing him so different from usual, the gang froze, their faces pale and mouths agape, with no choice but to scatter like scared ducks in a total cowardly retreat. After using all her strength, Thuong was seriously drained, coughing up a mouthful of fresh blood, her face pale as a banana leaf, unable to take another step, making his wife and children extremely worried, crying and calling his name incessantly. Lin Thuong's entire body collapsed to the ground. The crowd was riotous, shouting, calling an ambulance for him. Suddenly, from afar, two figures wearing dark black clothes slowly approached mysteriously. But Thuong thought they were people from Nin Fu Quoc, so he called his wife to quickly bring the fruit into the house. On that pale, sweat-drenched face, it felt like they were local gangsters killing people like crazy. Even though he was tired, he still tried to get up silently, admiring how terrible Nin Fu Quoc's tricks were. When he was able to send the Bao Special Action Team to pursue him, he said that he had nothing to lose anymore and took a risk of death stance to fight. After the two of them confirmed that the aggressive man in front of them was Thuong, they immediately bowed their heads, respectfully, said that he had received orders from the commander to come find him. After a moment of confusion, he suddenly learned that these two strangers were not Nin Fu Quoc's people. He breathed a sigh of relief. But because my body was so exhausted, it couldn't bear it any longer. He quickly fell down and fainted in the arms of the two guards, making them panic. A powerful medical team was quickly invited to examine Nin Thuong at his bedside. They all seemed to be top doctors. With many years of experience, they gathered in a large group around his bed and began to practice their expertise. The old bald doctor waved his hand at his two heartbeats, so Thuong stopped beating. The old disease comes back again. His sad face showed that he had tried his best, making the two guards feel like they were struck by lightning, and immediately became angry. The doctor sneered at the angry attitude of both of their guards, and said that even if they chopped him up, he wouldn't be able to help Thuong come back to life, causing the two of them to be speechless in front of this old doctor's arrogant attitude. An old man gently stroked his beard and interrupted immediately, calling his disciple to quickly bring out the needle. Suddenly at this moment, but I don't know where, he appeared at the door. With an extremely powerful appearance, Thuong was receiving acupuncture from Lu Tam. Old Lu gently waved his hand, muttering each spell. Next, he raised his hand and pressed hard on the needle tip on the barrier, forcing Thuong deep inside. Immediately, his whole body slightly transformed into lightheadedness, and then became completely awake. He bowed, respectfully, clasped his hands, and thanked old Lu for saving his life. Gently stroking his beard, he humbly said that he just had to give up on his old injury. Just now, it was simply to maintain his life. The ginger man gently warned that Nin Thuong Thuong's life limit was only 3 days. After 3 days, not even the gods could save him. Suddenly, Nin Bok came from behind, making Nin Thuong Thuong a bit surprised. "I can't remember who he is." Hearing him smile, he said he was Nin Bok in the past. It brought him to tears, unable to believe the reality. Then the two joyfully embraced after years of painful, chaotic separation. But Nin Bok felt the first priority was to heal his wounds. The rest could wait. Old Lu shouted loudly, glaring to warn that his own triple poison needle technique could only keep him alive for 3 days. Each word from him left Nin Bok a bit disappointed. His eyes flashed with contempt, surprised that old Liu's skills were only that good. As soon as he finished, he gestured toward Nin Thuong's chest wound, then used his qi to control acupuncture needles all over his body. To the shock and surprise of the doctors, each needle on Nin Thuong's body emitted a surge of energy, heating him up, qi spreading rapidly through his muscles and flesh. Old Liu panicked but was stunned when he realized Nin Bok was using the Ghost Gate 7 needles technique to reverse the pulse. Unable to close his mouth in disbelief. Meanwhile, Nin Bok finished treating Nin Thuong and quietly instructed him to remove the silver needles inside his body after 7 days. Seeing the golden Qilin cloak on Nin Bok, old Liu couldn't stand, trembling with fear as he realized this guy was truly the Northern King. Just as Nin Bok stepped outside, he ran into Nin Thuong's wife and child, who had been anxiously waiting for him. After hearing from Nin Bok himself that he was stable, they happily returned inside. Letting out a sigh of relief, Kwa, the adorable little girl with worried eyes, said that according to her mother, her father had been gone for a long time, already 6 feet under. But Dr. Onyu gently stroked Kwa's cheek and insisted that Nin Bok had come from a faraway place and was still alive. Noticing the bruise on the girl's cheek, he asked what happened. Kwa, feeling like he cared, burst into tears, saying those 2 bullies had beaten her and even her father. Her expression so full of rage that Nin Bok immediately ordered his men to find and kill the culprit on the spot. After a brutal fight that broke even his arm, the main bully refused to give up, gathering his gang to seek revenge against Nin Bok with a large force determined to take him down. But when Nin Bok caught sight of the approaching mob, he quickly took off his golden cloak, heroically drew the engraved sword strapped across his back, and with one swift slash, severed the main bully's arm. In the terrified eyes of the victim, the sharp blade was dripping with fresh blood. Nin Bok paused, calling out the next name to be dealt with swiftly. The gang, still shaken by the first guy's fate, tried to act tough but stammered pathetically. Then Nin Bok quietly moved to shield Kwa's eyes and said, coldly ordering Tievian Son to swiftly take out the rest of them to restore order. A few days later, under Nin Bok's protection, Nin Thuong and his family left their harsh, impoverished home to follow him back, starting a new life amid the village's joy. Before leaving, Nin Bok sent money to thank the kind neighbors who had always helped them. Truly Lin Thuong was blessed for her kindness. On the car, Ning Thuong sadly told Ning Bok about the time he was stabbed through with a sword, and everyone thought he was a goner. But no one knew his heart was actually on the right side. Then, he happily glanced at his wife, his proud eyes saying it was her who secretly saved him, and they've been hiding out here for 13 years. Even too scared to contact her family, making her smile shyly with her eyes squeezed shut. But the doctor cheerfully urged him to recover quickly. The original name still lingers. He remembers when he was a kid, always looking up to him like a hero. Back then, he was young, reckless, with a charming, elegant aura that overshadowed all the younger generations. The martial arts scene in Longthan was insanely fierce. But the smile was shy. Just feel that all of this is ancient history now. Yet this time he agreed to return to ninja with him, which also means acknowledging the name Lin that he had long forgotten, recognizing his once glorious identity, his own past status.